This is the introduction to a new history, a new theory of history, which attempts to carve out the future of humanity. This is the prelude to a new history. And so it came to be that all makers of humankind had the power to tell of a far nobler function in giving expressionality of their experiences and those of humanity, making them recognizable to the reader of words by means of past human experience. For it is only by creating new forms of expression that the artist prevails over the prevailing network of prevalent ideas in which his or her experience is confined, by effecting a realistic enlargement of the kingdom of that mind and makes new discoveries within that kingdom. Indeed, it is the masters of art, the artists, who show us the mission of their art, to show us what we are experiencing as a collective universal humanity, not as a reproduction of what is already given, but placing us inside the whole of the external world in order for us to understand and communicate those objective realities that are within it, which both rule and conventionality have for so long concealed. This work brings together history and psychology to understand a new future for humanity. Art is the work of an imagination that is genuinely creative in the sense of new experiences, not that which is merely fantasized. History, then, as an art which carefully reconstructs the remembered past, is a series of expeditions into thoughts and ideas of the intellect. Realities of the long 19th century, the mechanical revolution, the industrial revolutions, the fermentation of philosophical and scientific ideas, such as nationalism and socialism, and even greater realities of the long 20th century, CE, have led me to make progressive advancements in my new theory of history and where the human civilization will enter the next stage, the new history. The unification of politics, federal world government, a modern world state unified by one law and justice system. In the society of the new history, individuals and the collective of humankind will comprehend the true measure and transitoriness of the entire old history of what was. The next stage in the new history, as I had mentioned before, is a correct understanding of what the old history is and why it failed due to an ignorance concerning the nexus of language and the complete nexus of writing. You must first understand that the mechanism by which history unfolds has not yet been discovered, and therefore it will take some considerable length for us to find out exactly what drives the progression of historical events. Philosophy and psychology are the two main guides for the new history. The theory is that history, as it has been originally known, cannot be properly done without first implementing a philosophical stance and a psychological state, which then in turn help to produce an accurate historical story, a story which unifies all of political life and human experience. As true history is one which is philosophical in nature, one that uses a philosophy which in turn uses science as a tool in describing a potential future state of final political and economic pertinence, where the cognitive is strengthened, the industry of science is sensitive, and the fruits of philosophical debate are substantial. Blaise Pascal once quotes, "All the miseries of humankind but prove its greatness. They are the miseries of a great lord, the miseries of a king that is dispossessed." End quote. Indeed, all human relations have changed, and at the same time, a change in conduct, politics, literature, and religion. These changes affect all aspects of life, in art, in the ways in which we've conceived the world in which we have lived, in which we've related to each other, in which we have seen ourselves in relation to the universe. Modernity constitutes a process of social disintegration derived from the effects of the Industrial Revolution and Auguste Comte's vision of society as an aggregation of atomistic individuals from rural to urban life, and a consequence of industrial expansion and the Enlightenment quest for an ideal society. The coming of modernity had far-reaching effects on the life of the mind, the advances of scientific materialism and bureaucracy. capitalism and consumerism, conceiving human relations based on utility, greed, and competition, supplanted relationships based on felt connection and in historical, social, cultural continuity. The state, the representative of organizing, categorizing, and subjugating forces of systematic conformity, is an overwhelming presence in democracies, with the understanding that adulation of power and a material force with the desire and power through technological advance to subjugate leads to the abandonment of democracy and the eventual rise of totalitarianism, given that the integrated emotional system involved in its roots that are integrated from ancient and or primitive primal attachments, which are indeed animalistic in nature. The pervasive rationalistic, technical, and some might say bureaucratic ways of thinking have emptied life of meaning by destroying its former beliefs about life, death, and the world in which we now live. It was the demise of any shared value structure. All of human psychology is said to be explained by a single omnipotent cause: a large brain, culture, language, socialization, learning, biological and historical complexity, self-organization, and natural network of the net dynamics. The discovery by cognitive science and artificial intelligence, for example, in the science and technology theme of history, of the technical challenges overcome by our mundane mental activity, is one of the great revelations of scientific discovery, and like evolution by natural selection, it has been an awakening of the imagination comparable to learning that the universe constitutes billions of galaxies similar or different from our galaxy, or that a single drop of pond water teems with microscopic life forms that have existed before humanity's existence. I have ideas as to what might be analyzed in regard to the greatest accomplishments brought forth by the phenomena of civilization, especially when recognizing that an intelligent being has to deduce only the relevant implications of what it knows. This problem requirement in epistemological sense escaped the notice of generations of philosophers who were left complacent by the illusory effortless of their own common sense, given the time and space in which they lived. Limited as I am in the century in which I exist, but like all humans, we are unable to get outside of our own thought processes in order to see our thoughts processing as artifacts and epifacts of how brains were formed and how our minds have developed consciousness, an epiphenomenon, as opposed to a set of inescapable laws of the universe, insofar as the universe has been understood. For if we were to reprogram or reverse engineer the human psyche, there must be well-defined and perhaps in some instances redefined intricate calculations that manifest the phenomenological. That was the introduction to the new history.